And this is an unnecessary scope of the class, but also within the verbal component, there's nothing preventing you from taking pepper spray out, taking a weapon out, whatever it happens to be. If I'm law enforcement, getting a taser out, whatever. So like the obvious components to that sort of stuff. Now as the distance whittles down, now we have other considerations to make. So what we're going to get into now is just what we just call like a cover position or a default cover position. Some people use the words for, which is basically going to be a position that I go to protect my head when I assume that an attack is imminent. All right. The reason that we call it a default position or a cover position is that, like, unlike combat sports, we got guys in here who have a fair amount of combat sport experience. Is I can't take the sport related risk of guessing what strike it is in order to try to set up a combination or something like that. One, it's too risky. Also, part of the sport component of things is that, like, if Jeff waded in and ate my jab so that he could land a hard hook to the head, we'd say that's probably an okay trade, right? Like, in the scope of things, that's better for him. Now, he still got punched in the face, right? So that's still, like, not good in the scheme of things. But then what we also kind of alluded to a little bit is the initiative thing, right? Like, when it comes to personal violence and this sort of stuff, who thinks that it's going to begin with, hey, touch gloves? All right, right? So it's probably going to be some form of ambush, sucker punch related attack, which means that, like, I'm not going to be in the best position to guess what it is, all right? So it's too much of a risk. And my prime directives when it comes to everything, when we talk about this, and particularly when we talk about weapons, is number one, mitigate damage. Mitigating damage is way more important than causing damage, particularly when we're talking about the personal protection aspect. If you get into the duty side of things, there might be, I could invent scenarios where, like, you have some amount of moral obligation to allow yourself to get hurt in order to damage somebody else to save other people. Okay, we get it. We could go way off on the rails on that, but damage mitigation, more important than causing damage. All right. So then along with that, what it means is I need to stay A, conscious, and B, on my feet, if at all possible. Those are going to be the things that give me the highest probability of survival and success, all right, for a multitude of reasons, which is that one of them, on my feet, I'm the most mobile, so I could run away, I could get away potentially, all those sort of things. Also, you get on the ground, what's on the ground? Things that are sharp, things that are hard that you could fall and hit your head on, that sort of stuff. If you get concussed, you get knocked out, any weapons you got, they're my weapons now. Kind of basics when it comes to that. So we've already done the horizontal elbow shield. And the reason why I do my positions the way that I do is because we've already taught the horizontal elbow shield. The basic cover position that I go to that is just going to be to add the other elbow into just what we call a crossed elbow position. This is kind of a classic boxing sort of cover position. So we've got Mr. Satterwhite here facing towards you. So he comes to his horizontal elbow shield, right? Like, pretty simple stuff like that. All that's going to happen is when he comes to his default cover position, he's just going to add his other arm over the top, right? So now he's got more coverage of the head, all right? He's got a better base, and then with that, he's going to lower his body, and he's going to get in a decent stance just so he can resist the impact of a hit, right? Go ahead and relax, Aaron. Does that make sense to people, right? So again, so he comes to that position, boom, good double elbow, crossed elbow position. So if we look at what he's got, if you guys need to come around the front so you can see, right? Does he have pretty good protection from anything coming straight on at him? I would say yes. What about hooking attacks from either side? I would say pretty decent, right? Is he exposed in the face? Not really, right? What is the only part of him that is realistically particularly exposed in that position?
Neck down.
Neck down or top of the head, right? So, go ahead and relax there, that's fine. So we got some guys that do combat sports. So Jeff, if you want to knock somebody out, where is probably the best two places to hit somebody?
Behind the ear and back of the head.
Behind the ear, back of the head, right? So we've kind of taken away the ear because we're covered up, back of the head is facing away from. Aside from that, what's your primary target in boxing when you go to the head?
The jaw.
Jaw, right? The ways you knock people out, you hit them in the jaw, temple, ear, typically speaking. You can punch them in the back of the head, okay. So we're covering all of that stuff with that, right? So again, it's a default position. Aaron comes back to that. Boom. So we look at where he's at. Pretty good protection from all that sort of stuff. Back of the head, all pretty good. Now, does he sit there and stay there? Absolutely not. So as we get into our grappling sort of stuff, obviously he progresses to that. So any covered position is not a hangout position whatsoever. So it is basically, it is a response to stress, right? Whatever interaction he was having, he had his fence up. He sees a blading. He sees a shift of the weight, a shift of the feet. So he comes to his covered position. He takes that impact, whatever happens to be, and then we get into our follow-on actions. We're grappling, we're wrestling, whatever happens to be as we kind of get down the chain. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there anybody who's particularly confused at both the position as well as the concept? Nobody? Okay, so how we're going to teach this, all right, so the first thing that we're going to do, I just usually just break this into a couple components. So the first one is just going to be, excuse me, while you're standing here in this position, you're going to have your fence up, so you're talking in your fence or whatever. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to say, go. All you're going to do is you're just going to widen your base, lower your hips. That's it. A little bit wider, a little bit lower. Why do we do that? Stability. Stability. Basics, right? Yeah, he doesn't want me to hit him in the jaw and knock him out, but if I hit him and he falls down, that could do the job too. So first thing we'll do is just widen the base, lower the base. All right? Do a few reps of that. Then we're going to add the crossed elbow position. All right? So we'll come to that. We'll have our good fence up. A couple reps here. Then we're going to add that position. Obviously, you guys will have multiple arms. My double crossed elbow it's not very good right now, but you know, pretty simple when it comes to that. Is everybody good? Okay. So what I want us to do is I want us to basically have kind of the similar setup that what we had when we were doing the firearm stuff over here, but instead we'll just get half of you guys kind of lined up here and half of you guys lined up behind them, and we'll just do a line and then a line, just so I can break you guys down and see you in slightly smaller groups. So give me about 5 guys lined up right here, and just and both people just face towards me. Both groups just face towards me. Yep, nice and simple. So we'll do the front group here again. I'm just going to give you a go. Just want to see you a little wider, a little lower. Right? I'll tell you to relax. Then we'll go to the back group. Make sense? All right, front group. Go. Good. A little wider. Good. Relax. Back group. Go. Good. That ain't much lower. There you go. All right, relax. All right, front group again. Go. Good. Relax. Back guys. Go. Better. Relax. Do one more of those. Front group. Go. All right, relax. Back guys. Go. Good. So think less like drawn out and think more like, oh, like think more. So try that, right? Whenever you're ready. Better, yeah. Just move, like nice and quick, right? You gotta think, like, what's the speed of a sucker punch, right? So I'm just gonna hit you in the shoulder, right? But get your fence up around your face, right? Just stand here. No, just stand here. Just,
Okay.
Right? Get your fence up around your face. All right. When I move to strike you, move your feet.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Who won?
You did.
Yeah.
For sure.
So think, move your feet quicker, lower your body local. So we're up around the face.
Okay.
Around the face. Yeah, right. This is face.
Yeah, that's
this isn't
not.
face, right? So
Okay.
again, I'm just gonna hit your shoulder, but
Okay.
I'm going for your face, right? So we're just talking here. Right? It's gotta be short, sharp,
Yeah.
but like that's why we do the verbal stuff.
Right.
Don't let me stand nose to nose with you, right? Like you're gonna lose that every time in a speed competition, and I'm not fast. Okay. Now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna add the horizontal elbow shield. All right. First, we're just gonna kind of clean you guys up before we do it on cue. So again, the way that I like to do it, so everybody, we'll go front row first here. I want you to come to horizontal elbow shield. Right? Oh, both.
Yeah.
Just the one horizontal elbow shield. Don't make this complicated. So you got a horizontal elbow shield. All right. Other arm now is going to come over the top of it. So everybody, if you're right-handed, your horizontal elbow shield should be your left hand, right? So your left arm's up in your horizontal elbow shield. Then you're going to add the other one. So, yep. So exactly, I do that right there. Cross that over the top. Good. All right, relax, Stephanie. Now get your face down, right? You got a lot of. There we go. Gotta protect the head. All right, relax. Okay, guys in the back, same thing. So bring up your horizontal elbow shield. So this will be left hand for everybody but John. Okay, so now we add the other arm goes over the top of. You guys got hats on. You might want to take this off. Yeah. Right?
Or put turn backwards.
Good. And I like to just kind of flip. Boom. Bring it over the top. Get that head down into it a little bit. All right, relax, relax, relax.
This is what you do about on top.
Okay, same thing one more time. We'll just go horizontal elbow shield here in the front. All right, now add that other arm over the top of it. Good. Yeah. Make sure we got some tension there, though.
Okay.
Good. Relax. Okay, guys in the back, same thing. Horizontal elbow shield. Add that other arm over it. There we go. So make sure we got that covered. Get that elbow up in front. Good. Because that elbow is a weapon, too. Because now when you move into me, right, you've got that good frame. Good. So see how, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. There we go. So now we're good. See the difference? Mm-hmm. All right, relax. Does that make sense to everybody? Who can see particularly well when they do that? That's not the point, right? The point is protect the head, survive the initial encounter, and then we move on from there, all right? And this is where, like, you know, guys who have more, you know, combat sports experience, I don't bring this up in class, but it's like, if Jeff is over there, you know, and Jeff comes to, like, you know, kind of his classic block position, do I think he's wrong? No. Jeff has a lot of experience. He's done a lot of that sort of stuff. However, is Jeff taking a risk? Like, he certainly is. Because the other component of protecting oneself is, what if the guy has a weapon, right? Weapons can come around things, weapons hit hard, so keep that in mind. All right, now we're going to do both things at the same time. So you're going to move that base a little bit. You're going to pop up into that double horizontal elbow, right? Boom, right? And that should be instinctual. And the reason, like I said, that I teach this is, one, I like this horizontal elbow shield for all of its usefulness with the weapons. But for me, like, and then when you watch a lot of, like, especially if you watch a lot of bare knuckle fighting, very common, you see a lot of guys go with what we call a high elbow guard, and they'll kind of roll the shoulder. So they'll go elbow up, roll the shoulder off a strike. So I'm here, I'm talking, this is a very instinctual, pretty quick movement to do. All right, you guys ready for this? So you'll do both of them. You'll lower the base, lower the body, and you'll cross the elbows here. All right? And you'll stay there until I say relax. Okay, everybody ready? Go. Good, we're nice and tight here. You got a lot of face open. All right, relax. So when you do it, so bring this horizontal elbow shield across, right? And then, yeah, like bring that one, I like that right there. Yeah, so now you're real secure. All right, relax. All right, same thing again here. Go. Good, Stephanie. Don't look quite so much at the floor, Dan. A little bit up, there you go. All right, relax, guys. Do one more of those. Go. This elbow, right there you go. Need that to protect that part of your head, all right? All right. All right, relax. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? All right, so now we're gonna do this kind of a little bit live, so I want everybody to have a partner. I want each partnership to have a set of hand shields, so the bad guy's gonna have hand shield on each hand, all right? Pretty simple. Now, I don't want you guys like absolutely like, they're on there, yeah. I don't want you absolutely mangling like one, just calm down, come back over here. You guys are getting ahead of yourselves here. All right, but you can move, and obviously the hand shield, like very big surface area, like, you know, you can strike relatively hard very safely. So initially, what I want you guys to do is I just want, Stephanie's just gonna start in her horizontal, in her covered position here. So she's in her covered position, and I'm just going to, I'm gonna give her some work. Okay, relax, right? Let her feel some strikes, you know, kind of iron out like, oh, hey, maybe actually I'd like to pin my ear a little bit, get a couple reps of that. And then we're gonna progress to, where we're just gonna be talking to her. She's gonna have her fence up and around her face, and I'm just going to throw her fence, you got your hands up. It's your hands up, you're talking to me, right? So, and now, as we're talking now, I'm just gonna throw like predictable, like strikes at her. I'm not gonna like feint and try, I'm not, like this isn't my job to like make her look stupid. I'm just going to be here and I'm going to See what you do. She go to a cover position? Nope. So as soon as I come in, cover position, right?
Or you want me to go like
Cover
both
position.
hands?
Yep.
Okay.
Right? So there we go. Better. Right? You can use both hands, right? That's a perfectly reasonable speed. Because one, she's always going to be at the speed deficit of that as far as that goes. But that makes sense to everybody. So again, initially, she's just going to be in her cover position. So go ahead and you're going to give her some strikes, give her some work off of that. Make sure her position's good. A few reps of that, and then we'll go into predictable, all right, but varied strikes. So here we're talking. There we go. Don't guess the strike, just the cover position. Right? And we see like even a couple reps of that, right? Is like what happens when she tried to guess like straight versus hooking. Right? She loses, right? And those, I'm not throwing it very hard. Like go ahead and come to your cover position, right? So even if I don't impact her hard, I'm enough bigger, she's going to be in trouble when it comes to that. So that's kind of the purpose, and that's the things to keep in mind with that. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, partners, hand shields.
When I go to the cover shield, or when I go to bolt to wrap like this.
I mean, there's nothing that's inherently wrong with that, but like I don't like teaching to do that because now it becomes more specific and less quick, right? When the entire point of it is that like you have to get something that you can get up in between you and them instantly. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So there's more like, you know, if you guys didn't hear like, you know, Colin's question, which is a good question, is so he asked like, hey, can he go ahead and like, so can I weave my hand in on the bicep there, right? It's like, you know, could you do that? Is there anything that's inherently wrong with that? Like, no, right? However, and this is like something to kind of, that you'll figure out when we're doing this drill right here, is this is something that you have to use basically in extremis, right? Is like, hey, whatever interaction, you know, that I'm having with Dan is like I've got my fence up and I see him shift his weight, blade his shoulder. So I basically come into something that can soak up the majority of the things that he might hit me with so I can start fighting him after that, right? I can't be like, oh, hey, he switched, you know, and I'm going into, oh, I guessed it was coming out wide, he came down the pipe, Lane eats that, right? I can't play that game because we're not in a cage, right? Like if he puts me down with one, nobody comes over and goes, hey, we'll help you up, buddy, right? Like this is where we use the combat sport for all that it's useful for, which is a lot, but this isn't sport fighting, right? This is, hey, don't get frickin' knocked stupid in that initial assault and then find a solution to it. Does that make sense to everybody? And that's why I switched. Like there's other cover positions I've learned from other people that I've taken in classes or that I've seen or that I've used. And some of them have like some merit. What I use, I think, is just the simplest, the stupidest one of the bunch. It's like, it's the least specific, the least like precise. It's just like, hey, get everything up in front that you can and then figure out a solution afterwards. All right, let's rock and roll, guys.
Ready?
Yep, so just give him a little work here just so he can just so he can feel it. We don't have to be a bitch about it though. There you go. Give him some straight down the pipe too. Like,
Okay.
yeah. His balance ain't that good, is it? Yeah.
The last one you hit right on there.
Gotcha.
Okay, so remember, once you've got your reps where they're just starting in their cover position and everybody's felt that, both partners, then you're going to transition into, like, I've got my fence up, predictable strikes, and when it comes, coming into that cover position, right? So really kind of repping that. Don't be such a bitch, John. Give it to him. There you go. Good. Give him one right down the pipe. Make sure he's got good balance. There you go.
I see you. Yeah, I do that.
This is what I do.
But don't. So you do this.
I got spinner
You actually
before, but I was like, yeah, I was like this.
And I can
Yeah, I
see.
didn't. head going straight down. I got you.
So hands up. Around your head, on your face.
Yeah.
You're like way over. Keep those close to your head. Does that make sense?
Yep, be right in here if you can. Like, nice, because you want just bare minimum. Yep.
So we're just here. We're just talking.
Good.
Talking some more. That's good.
Hands up around your face, right? And that's why, like, so like we're like right here.
Right.
Yep. Because like, and if nothing else, if you accidentally soak up one of those, like just with, it's better than eating it. You know, it's like, and that's the shitty thing about like, you're always going to be on the wrong end of initiative in self-defense. Is he's going to get to pick time, place, you know.
I expect it.
Yeah. And you're still basically never going to win the speed thing. It's just, it's tough. And that's specifically why, like when it comes to certain things like the spear system and that I don't like any of the blocks that require you to move towards it, because it's like you're from here, you're moving a much further distance. So you're going to miss it way more than if you're coming back towards yourself.
Right.
He's kind of a big old boy back there.
Right. You
Listen, you got to touch what you can reach. I just aiming for the chest. That's it. Like,
I have students like yours.
make sure both guys get reps here. How's the battery doing on that?
I have no clue.
Like I said, we sort of started with the verbal management, so we started a little bit of distance. We got down a little bit to fence level. We got down to default cover stuff. Now we go to our cover position. You know, I got attacked. We're physically touching one another. Now we're in the real game. We're in the wrestling range of stuff when it comes to that. So when it comes to the wrestling side of things, or the entanglement side of things on the feet, I keep it really simple. So we're basically going to go over basic underhook, basic overhook, a couple of ways to use it, a couple of attacks off of that, as far as being able to get to positions where I can access weapons, you know, potentially, and or access positions to cause damage to him, and you know, and that'll be basically it. Like I said, I don't show a lot of things. The goal is to have you guys get a lot of repetition. So when it comes to the basics, as far as our, you know, entanglement, and as far as like working our basic wrestling stuff here, a couple of main things is that one, like I said before when we were talking about the default cover, we said that damage mitigation was the most important thing, right? Causing damage is a pretty distant second on that. So within the context of that, if we look at potential adversary, what is the thing on the potential adversary that hurts me?
Firearm.
Hands. His hands, his fists.
Hands, right? It's the hands that hurt. Guy's got a gun there, he's got a knife, or he's got a bottle or whatever, all of which require what? Hands. What else can the hands do to you? Grab. I mean, what's probably the most common thing they do to you? Yeah, he frickin' hits you with them, right? So, within the context of what we're doing, limb control is the number one. All right, and that's why we'll use the basics of the underhook and the overhook. All right, guys who have martial arts experience, and we've got, you know, multiple of them. Like Jeff's a kickboxer. Aaron's got a lot of experience, like striking as well as grappling stuff. Like Aaron and I are very experienced grapplers. You know, all those things are useful, right? But they have to come back to prime directive number one: mitigate damage by limb control. All right. That's why we're going to use the overhook and the underhook, which also means that guys who have experience, I'm not saying don't use that. Like if I'm Aaron Maley and I've got good knees and stuff, hey, you got a good underhook, you got good limb control, need a guy. Absolutely. That's perfectly legit plan. Prime directive, limb control. Okay, does that make sense to everybody conceptually? Yes, Jeff?
Good example of it, at a previous class, I had a guy in a perfect tie clinch. I was about to start dropping knees. I started feeling the knife just stabbing me because I had no control of his hands. He'd pull a little wooden dowel that represented the knife, and I was dead.
Yep, and that's what we have to associate a level with. Now, does it mean that, like, sometimes I do think in the space of personal protection, the gun versus knife thing gets too much attention, but all right, we got a couple of cops here, right? What else besides striking you or using their weapons that they brought can somebody do to hurt you?
Take your stuff. Take their stuff.
Take their stuff, right? Why do you think Dan has a holster with a hood sitting over the top of it, right? It's to make it more difficult for somebody to grab it and take it away from him. So that's something to keep in mind, right? It's not only prevention of striking, prevention of their use of weapons, it's to protect your own weapons, right? Simple conceptually, a little bit more difficult like in application. Okay, so like I said, we're into the basics of the overhook and underhook, and this is where Mr. Satterwhite's going to take over a lot of this, and I'll bring other people up to help him demo. I'm unfortunately not a great demo partner or teacher when it comes to this stuff right now. But the basics of what we're going to do with the overhook and the underhook is going to be that one, I'm going to look to, is this a good angle? Yeah, so make sure everybody can get to where they can see the angle. You might want to slide like just kind of over to here a little bit. Okay, so the basics of it. So when I'm in an underhook, my hand is going to be under Aaron's, all right? So conversely, if I'm in the underhook, what is Aaron in? Overhook. He's in the overhook, right? Similar positions. So now, from this position here, I'm in the underhook, my hand needs to be high on my opponent, all right? Very simplistic. Why? I need to keep his limbs away from my stuff and away from his stuff. Hand placement, as far as where it goes back here, easiest thing to teach people is to just put the hand on the shoulder here. Better thing to do is to put the palm flat on the back here, right? This is easier to teach. This is more professional, right? Don't care what you do on that. So we've got that position there. Next step we're talking about, head position. Superior head position in grappling simply means that I have my head level lower than my opponent's head level. Aaron and I are basically the same height, right? I have superior head position. Superior head position, right? Change your head level. Secondarily to that, I want to have my head perpendicular to my opponent's head if I can. My head level's lower. My head is perpendicular to him. You also notice I'm not changing the orientation of my neck and spine, all right? So I'm not turning my head. I'm looking right into my opponent here. Does that make sense? Head slightly lower and perpendicular. Third component is the tie of the opposite arm. This I might be able to demonstrate slightly. So we have 3 ties that we're going to do. Tie 1, bicep tie. I make a C with my hand, comes to the bicep. Tie 2, wrist control. Tie 3 is either a grip of the hand, or if he's holding the weapon, it's a grip of the weapon. All right? Do I recommend gripping the weapon if the guy's got a knife? Not if you don't have to. If the guy has a bottle, an impact weapon, something like that, a firearm, grabbing the weapon is an extremely reasonable thing to do within that. Okay, so again, our main components. We're under, hand is high on the back or the shoulder, head position is lower, perpendicular. The tie, we make a C. We're on the bicep, we're on the wrist, or we're on the hand/weapon. Does that make sense conceptually? Is anybody confused by that? Yes, John. Oh, sorry, John, then we'll get Pat.
So for lowering the head, is that so he can't strike your face?
It's a control thing. When we get with our partners here in just a second and we start working head control, it's going to become very obvious as to why. Low head wins, provided that you have a low head without looking at the ground. Okay, Pat.
What makes the hand on the back superior to up on the shoulder?
Less stress on your own elbow. That's the main idea. So this is very easy to teach, and this is a good position, but what tends to happen, 1, if the guy knows what he's doing, or 2, if I just pull Aaron's elbow up, his instinct is usually to pull his own elbow back down. A lot of stress on your elbow there, right? Secondarily to that, a lot of leverage here. Go ahead, pull your own elbow down. I'm very strong there. So that's a very good question. Like I said, it is the easy.
You don't necessarily gain much by being able to grab that trap.
Yeah, and it's one of those where like we're getting a little off in the weeds, but that's totally fine. So if I can maintain this is a very good controlling position, especially if I'm trying to duck and do things like that. But as soon as you start to raise a guy's elbow, he's just going to pull it back down. It's just instinctual, and then if he knows what he's doing, like in a grappling sense, there's like standing arm locks off of that. So we're either here or we go flat on the back. Again, all the same things, but now if Aaron tries to force his elbow down, I've got good leverage, but even if he gets it down, the stress on the elbow isn't there. So it's a little bit of an elbow saver. Does that make sense to people? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get, let's get in like groups of 3, just so that we get a little bit of a rest cycle doing this stuff. I want the speed to be very low. I'm going to demonstrate with Aaron what I want your speed to be. So when you guys get into the underhook and get into the bicep tie, the wrist tie, or the hand tie, get your good head position, and then I want you to work on moving the opponent around just a little bit. The underhook is very good for one, keeping the limbs away, but it's also good for pushing an opponent. It's good for pulling an opponent. I can pull an opponent down. I can force limbs up. So there's 4 planes that the underhook moves in particularly well. So this is the speed that I want you guys to work at. I'm going to be here. That is a very good working speed for this. One, I don't want you to, like, every single class, some group comes out here and the first 2 dudes just blow each other's freaking entire gas tank 37 seconds in, are useless the rest of the day. So we're going to get with partner, we get the underhook, we get the head position, we're going to bicep tie, we're going to wrist tie, we're going to hand tie, we're going to move them around a little bit, then you're going to switch out with your partner. And we're going to do about 5 minutes of just drilling the basics of the position and then move on. Is everybody good on that? All right, let's make it happen. I was going to come over and like groups of 3 guys. Yep. Like I said, every time, never fails.
Yeah, I guess you're with us. Yeah. Have fun getting low.
Well, I'm pretty much you guys with everybody else.
The good thing is it's easy to get head position on Jeff. Like,
How cute that.
good, yep, yeah, next man in. And just have a rotation that makes sense, guys.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And then you turn yourself
Good, so when you do this, John, I don't want you to lower your head by looking down. I want you to,
Squat down.
yeah, I want you to keep that good, like, spinal and, like, chest position.
Gotcha. Okay. Kind of more like this.
Yep, that's better. And then, yep, and now just move her around a little bit. Just feel, go ahead and don't be so loose. Like, yeah, go ahead and grip him down. Yeah, there you go. So just move her around a little bit. So just kind of feel what you get out of that. And then you can kind of flare a little bit here to keep that arm up. There you go.
Okay.
the knife or whatever.
Good. So then go ahead and just kind of come to the overhook on that a little bit. Like so. So if you're here, just go ahead and yeah, just be like that. Yeah, you don't have to be like a totally limp partner. Like that's fine. And it's not. Hey guys, just look up here for a sec. So like if you're going like so partner who's like that I'm underhooking. Like you don't have to be like a total like limp noodle. Like just like just small amounts. Like you're just like a living, breathing human, but you don't have to like totally loosen up to the point where like it's weird physically. Yep, keep going, guys. It's tough. You deal with non-wrestlers and you start making them wrestle, you know?
Yeah.
Bicep.
Good, yeah. Go ahead and try the wrist if you want. Yep.
Oh God. Well, I was yeah.
Okay, are you nice? Perfect.
You want some assistance? Look, you're struggling.
I got it. I'm allowed to use my fingers on this hand now.
Oh, is it? Oh yeah. No. I literally tell people use my stance in my sport only.
So be on his back with this hand. So you need to be here, yeah. So be right, Stephanie. Be right here, either flat here or right there. Yep. Because that way he doesn't have enough space to easily take his arm back on you.
Yeah. Here.
To the back.
Yeah. Right.
This stuff all makes sense to you, homies?
Yes, sir.
Get some kind of tie on his far side there, like just whatever speed you're at, Colin. I want you to take 50% off of it. Like
You're such a freaking overachiever.
Yeah, so make sure we've got something. We're here, or we're here.
Right.
Yep.
Didn't I have wrist control on him?
You after you said it, you got
Yeah.
control. Because you went straight in like this, and I'm like, well, I guess we're lovers on lover lane. Gotcha.
Going in the wrong place.
He's more of a Viking shit.
Be good partners. Put
Put some
your arm in
pressure
the position of the overhook,
Yeah.
but don't wrench on it. That way, at least they have the feel.
Good. So try to get your head out perpendicular to him if you can. So you freeze. You
Okay.
Yep. You move your feet over here, and so take this. Forehead. I want right here.
Yeah.
Perpendicular. All right. There you go. Now move them a little bit. There you go. It's nice and easy. Good. Feel the difference there?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the other guy gets to fight too. You know, so like there's going to be resistance, but that's the primo position. Like from a strictly wrestling standpoint, right? Like if I'm here and here, I have better head position, right? Like I'm in a superior position. It doesn't mean that like I win the fight automatically. That's better. That's best. So like getting over there, because one, I need to be below him, but I need to control his head with the head. So it's not just the act of having the head lower. That's part of it. But by getting my head here, I turn his head. He automatically becomes much less physically able, because the body is designed to have spinal alignment and all that sort of stuff. As soon as you start turning it off, it becomes less effective. It doesn't mean it can't do stuff, like, and also he's that close to being back there, you know, so it's like it's an ongoing thing. But all right, guys, let's bring it back up here. Okay, so I think we got a little bit of the basics of that down. Is it like, you know, concept kind of makes sense to people? Okay, so again, remembering that the point of the underhook is limb control and also to control my opponent. So what the primary thing that we get out of the underhook is, one, is being able to keep my opponent's limbs away from stuff, and the underhook is extremely good for moving people, right? It's not the best for controlling or for keeping him from squirting away, you know, but it's very good for me being able to physically move a guy around, which means I can also use that like, hey, I got an underhook, I want to drive the guy up against the wall. I got a guy on an underhook and some wrist control, and I slam him up against the cruiser and I start to work other stuff. Like that's a component of it, right? Now we need to start to associate a little bit about what the danger of the limbs are, and I want to make us aware of the importance of the bicep tie, all right, and the importance of the tie in general, right? So I consider the bicep, when I discuss this, the bicep is the home base when you're in the underhook and when you're in the overhook, and we're talking about the weapons-based environment, is the bicep is the home base. So, for example, imagine I've got an underhook on this side, but I'm wounded and this doesn't count. So I come to the bicep, go ahead and give me just a little like resistance, right? So now I have decent limb control, right? Let's, actually, let me just grab this. I got these ready and didn't bring one over. So, I'm gonna give Aaron like one of my sparring knives. This isn't to try to make like a play of like, hey, every time I get in a knife fight, I'm gonna go like underhook in this. This is to show you like, this is the level of danger I'm mentally associating with a free-floating limb. Is that like, hey, I don't want it to touch me, because it can hit me, it can grab weapons, it can use weapons, that sort of stuff. So I'm at this bicep tie, I've got my good underhook. Now maybe I want to advance to the wrist control or to the hand control, right? I have more control over the thing if I grab the thing. However, this is difficult to control. So as I'm moving this, Aaron manages to get this wrist away. Where do I go back to? Home base. Bicep is home base. Anytime I lose it, I go back to home base. I tried to grab the wrist. Let's say this was some sort of impact weapon, right? So I came here, I tried to grab the impact weapon, he rips it away, back to home base. Does that make sense conceptually? Anytime you go for limb control, you're trying to do whatever, you go to the bicep tie, right? So I've got sparring knives and some training knives over there. So I want every partnership or every group to have one of those, all right? So what I want you guys to do is to basically, same thing, I want you to work on moving them with that underhook a little bit, and again, low level of resistance, right? So if I'm with Aaron, right, like, go ahead, I'm moving him a little bit. Now, as I try to advance, Aaron is going to take that away from me, and he's going to give me a little resistance, and I'm always going to find myself back to that bicep. Is it perfect if we're talking a weapons thing? No. If it's a knife, he could still stick me in the arm. He could still do other things. But one, it saves me from getting killed right away. It saves me from getting punched in the face right that second. And then here, in the next couple minutes, we'll add a couple of ways to attack to the back to gain position to be able to start to find solutions, final solutions to like our opponent's position. Does that make sense to everybody? So every group, so get different people in your group. Every group has a training knife, and we're going to work from that underhook to the bicep to the wrist and hand. He takes it away, retreat to home base, and work that repetition. Here we go, guys. If you have one of the metal training knives, you can't stab full power with them just because they're training knives, so just understand that. The orange ones are the best. We should have enough orange ones for all the groups, but these are the sparring Cheetos.
We're breaking up into new groups, same groups.
Yeah, groups of 3 again, guys.
And as you said, it's damage mitigation.
Yeah, different groups, but still groups of 3. Yep, get in where you fit in.
If you want.
Yeah, we're being fun.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
Like I'm having to grab a crossed because like some of the, especially the shorter people, like when I'm here, I'm going over here and then trying to get my head in.
It's possible, but I would also say is like, and that's where like I would get this in real tight, but like instead of like, if you get to here and here, and this is where like, that's the next thing that we're doing is obviously like the duck, attack and stuff like, and it's always a little awkward, like with people that don't know any wrestling is they don't know the basics of like, hey,
Yeah.
overhook a little bit so you get a look, but yeah.
It's kind of weird. So I was like,
Hey, make sure you guys are still working your body perpendicular. This is something, I don't think I did a very great job of explaining this, but like we can kind of see this with Pat and Stephanie over here, which is the other component. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to step on your foot. Go ahead and come back here, Stephanie. The other component of getting this perpendicular position is like, so Pat, don't move. Stephanie, try to work out more perpendicular to him. So going to your left, work, yep, is she's getting further away from the thing that's going to hurt her, and she's kind of hiding a little bit behind Pat's body. Conversely, come all the way out to the front. So, does she have head position? Yep. Right, does she have a good underhook? Yep. Does she have a good bicep tie? Yep. She's got all the things. Who thinks she's more exposed now than when she was over there? Right? So, something to keep in mind. Positions are fluid. The other guy gets to fight too, but that's one of the reasons why we push off perpendicular, and then here in a second, when we start to work into the duck under and ways to get to the opponent's back, that's where that will come in as the next step in the chain. Keep going, guys. Yeah, go ahead and bite on that overhook a little bit, Dan, so he gets a little bit of work out of it. There you go. So this is where you're going to have to try to win head position a little bit if you can, Jeff. Yep. That's where the grind comes in. Good. So go ahead and freeze right there. So this isn't to get too far down the chain, but here's where, in the scope of things, once you get his head a little bit, use the underhook and shuck him. So pull him down, and I would wrap him, bring him down. Now, you don't have to do that in the con. I don't want to hurt Dan's back or anything like that. But yeah, so go ahead and do one slow. So like you get to here and here, you're trying to get that, but now you got, so now pull straight down on that underhook, and now come over top of his head with your body, like so. Yeah, so you're in front headlock, and now what? Don't let go of that. Right? Yeah.
Sure. Fucking time me up
But
again.
so you get on top of the head. Now think about dragging him down to the ground, right? And especially like you start talking about like big boys.
Yeah.
How long do you think Dan's going to stand there with your chest on the back of his head?
Yeah. We've got 17 seconds of
Yeah.
actual.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that the underhook is really good for. The underhook is very good for pushing. It's really good for pulling. And if he gets his head down, we shuck him down right there. So that's kind of a little bit of your continuum there. And feel free to explore a little bit with that. As long as you've got the limb control and you've got there, you're kind of correct. And then obviously, and you're someone who knows stuff. So if I got like, if I can start doing stuff to him, yeah.
It's really hard to try to go and find the wrist when you got it back here. Yeah.
See how it turns into kind of just a.
It's very difficult. Like Hey, oh, see what I said? Like, you guys, way up here. Bring her down here. Like, we got a whole day of this stuff. Like,
I didn't want to be that guy.
it just, the problem is like, you're like two dogs. It's like one starts barking a little bit, the other one starts barking. Now you're both barking. You're like, damn it. If you had both just kept it down, you know, like.
Is there a point where you can be trying to stay, it seemed like he was losing a lot of control, he was trying to stay too far off to the side, and then
A little bit,
he
and
was
that's
able to like keep that knife arm.
yeah, and so that's the next stage of things, right? You know, to your question is so like just relax here, right? It's so like, you know, go ahead and come to the over, like, I mean, like normal stuff, right? Is it like, if I get too far over here and it's kind of weird, but then the next thing that we're going to do is basically duck, attack to the back. Yep. So that's like, you know, I have basically 2 attacks to get to the back. I teach two contact shooting positions. That's it. Like I basically, there's other things that some other people teach that I think is, you know, varying levels of okay. I don't personally like to teach them, especially if it's a one-day class, 'cause I think it's a little too complex. It's like, hey, basically limb control, access the back, and you can access the back. You know, otherwise, if you're stuck trying to prosecute this from out in front of them, there's no really great ways to do that, because either you're trying to race to your weapon and it's hard to do, or you're stuck trying to maintain the underhook and some sort of tie, and now you have to cause damage with, you know, your other limbs, which is perfectly reasonable, don't get me wrong, but if you can't access the back or something like that, it's very difficult to win that, you know, from in front.
It's a very fleeting. It is.
Is this making sense to you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking right at.
It gets a little weird when you're trying to not get touched by the other limb, right?
Yeah.
But you see how I'm able to
Right,
move
you're-
right here?
All right, guys, let's go ahead and bring it up here. If you want to just set the knives down over there, we don't need them right this second now. Okay, so did everybody at least grasp the concept, you know, of the underhook with the ties and a little bit about like the moving them around and stuff? Makes sense to everybody? All right, and when we start doing more stuff here, if you're somebody who has an established arsenal of things to do outside of just the grappling stuff, by all means, I'll never tell somebody like, oh, hey, stop worrying about foot stomps or stop worrying about knees or headbutts. Like all that stuff is great, but what did we say prime directive is for everything we're doing? Mitigate damage by controlling the limbs, right? As long as you can maintain your prime directive, do whatever the hell else you want. Totally cool with that. Prime directive, mitigate damage by controlling the limbs. So kind of keep that in mind. So we did the basics of that. A couple groups had already kind of started to notice, which is that like, hey, when I get here and I get myself off really perpendicular, it almost becomes awkward at that point. The good news is we have a good basic wrestling attack from over there that we're going to use to access the back on that. All right, so Mr. Satterwhite's going to teach us a basic underhook, basic underhook. He's going to teach us a basic duck under off of the underhook here, looking to access the back. So I'll let him demo initially on me, and then I'll bring somebody else up who has a functioning wrist on the other side.
So still got our good strong underhook. Getting off to the side, now I've got all this space that I can attack. So all we're going to do is we're going to drop our level a little bit. And I'm going to turn my head to the inside. As I do that, I'm just going to lift up a little bit. I'm going to peek my head through. So boom. And now I'm chasing the back. If he wants to keep that underhook, that's fine. Because we can keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Okay, we're always going to win that race. So again, I'm going to drop my level. Look for the space. My head turns in. I'm not keeping my head out here. Otherwise, you're never going to beat the corner. Okay, so arm comes up a little bit. I'm not throwing it by. I'm just lifting it up a little bit. Boom. Head's in. This hand, if it wants to come around the waist to help, can. Then once we got the back, we're attacking limbs.
Okay, does that make sense? All right, so we'll grab Jeff here to be a demo partner, so that way you can show him like with the wrist control, the bicep control on the other side. So this will be more what it looks like in reality. So let's, does everybody feel like they have a good angle to see, or move where you think that you need to?
So obviously on this one we start with the bicep. We circle down to the wrist. Off to the side, got my space. My hips are below his. Turn my head, boom. Now we've got complete hand control on it.
Okay, so go ahead and stay there for a sec. So, Aaron showed the duck under, very good there. So you see he started out, he either had the bicep control or the bicep tie or the wrist tie when he hit the duck under. When he gets to the back, he always goes for the wrist, right? Very important. Now, what he does, he takes his outside hand and he goes bicep and elbow control again. Very important, right? So when he's got this and he's pulling on there, go ahead and move Jeff around just a little bit with it, Aaron. He's got a lot of ability to move. Right, okay, that's fine. Like, thanks, guys. He's got a lot of ability to move his opponent around like that. The other thing that he gains, so go ahead and come back to that position, guys. So he's got this and this. So now, we got in some sort of altercation. We go back to the drill we were doing previously, and Jeff has a weapon of some sort right there, right? This opens up the potential avenue because his hand is outside over here. Aaron can retract his right hand in order to achieve a weapon of his own or a tool of his own, potentially, depends on what the circumstance calls for in there. If and when Jeff gets a little froggy, Aaron can immediately retreat back to that elbow control and keep him right there, right? This also gives him options further down the chain of if he wants to lift and pick him up from there, throw him on the ground, that's an option. He can drive him, push him up against a wall, up against a cruiser in order to do the same thing, but the basics of this position is that cross wrist control and this bicep and elbow control there. Does that make sense? Right? Does anybody not understand the basics of that? Okay, do you want to demo one more time, just from the start? So from the underhook, so right from the underhook and the tie straight to the back here, please.
So here, drop my level, space, boom, comes here. When you're doing this, you're not pulling it straight back and trying to bring it to your rib cage. You're pulling it at an angle down. Okay, that's really important. That's going to put all his weight on his heels. Okay, you're going to have way more control than trying to keep it up here because now he's going to be able to move and stuff. Down here, a lot more weight on the heels. You're in a lot more control.
Good. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so same thing. I want us to get back in groups of 3 just so that we kind of have a naturally built-in rest cycle. The other thing that I like about having groups of at least 3 is I want you guys watching the other guys' reps. You learn a lot by watching other people. So same thing, we come back to that underhook, and this here's the speed I would I want you guys to work at. We're here and here. Imagine I got that bicep tie. Perfectly good speed there. Perfectly good speed there. Right. Sorry. Everybody but Dan and Colin, make sure you do that speed. You guys are totally good. No, but that's a perfectly good speed. Lots of reps, and then secure that wrist and that elbow. Does that make sense to everybody? Start off with the good underhook position, right to that. Let's get some reps of that, guys. All right, let's go ahead. The good thing about Jeff is it's easy to duck under that arm.
Yes, it is.
The bad thing is when we get to the overhook here in a second, there's basically nothing to do there. Hey, will you bring it down?
Me. Fucking hell.
Bring it down here, geez.
Sit it down now.
Yeah.
Right, because
Much slower.
my arms available, so let's do it again. How do I break that habit?
So just I want you to slow it down. So just think about so you've got that. So go ahead, lower, look your way through.
Yep.
So when you come up, so now I'm not saying that you can't come to that double wrist. Go ahead and keep it. Yeah. That's an okay. And this is wrestling 101. From the weapon standpoint, so if you get to this and you secure it, he's froggy or whatever, as soon as I'm able to pull this hand out, pull it out and come to this elbow control. No. Pull it out.
Outside.
Pull it out. And then give me. Here. Right?
Okay.
Because one, you still have a 2-on-1 control, so you can move him, but now, if and when you feel the opportunity, now you can take this hand away and do something else with it. You could grab a weapon, you could grab a radio, whatever it happens to be. You potentially have the option now to take that hand away to do something, but if you feel like Jeff's getting froggy, bring it right back up there, control him again. Yep. Does that make sense?
Like you said, grabbing that, pulling down, it puts all the weight on this leg, and so there's no movement.
Oh, you're good.
Show that.
Give him a good overhook. That way it's a good.
Okay.
It'll help the duck look good.
Yeah, so go ahead. Don't touch my other arm, but go ahead and do it to me. So just, you don't have to like bite down on him, but just give him a little work right here, right? There we go, good. He looks through there. Yep, go ahead, and we're chasing. Yep, good, yep. And then the big thing, and this is what's a little awkward for guys on this one sometimes, is like, I want to look right to where I'm going. So when you get to here and here, it's that little flare. Go ahead and bite down a little bit. So it's a little flare, and when I look, or then when I lower my level, and then it's look right through. And the tighter that you stay right there, the better everything is. Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it's one of those, because like, one of the fundamental problems that you run into is whenever you start teaching duck unders to people that don't know any wrestling, is they'll duck by lowering their head. And that's bad juju. So I'm trying to essentially, it's almost more like how you roll, or how you bob in boxing than anything else, right? It's just like, that's all that I need. I don't need to miss his arm by a foot. I just need to miss it by a millimeter. So here and here, little elevation, boom, look through, and then right through there.
Sounds good. Yep. There you go.
Good. Look through there a little bit more, because you're leaving your head out when you come there, and that's what's making you get stuck there just a smidge. Yep.
Thunder. Yeah. I need to bring this up.
Good. Not bad. Yep. And try to do all of the elevation changes with the hips. That's the goal. Yep. You getting some rest with this, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Okay. The good thing about being short is that it's easy to duck under everybody, you know? Like,
I wasn't lifting up. I wasn't doing
let's see it.
that.
So I need this hand to do something here, though. Right? So it's either like so there, yep. That's also going to help you lever the arm a little bit to move it. So go ahead and come to your underhook again. So this hand, not over there, this hand is here.
Okay.
So then that. So now you see how you got some space right there? That's where it is. So lower the hips, come under. Boom. Good. Yep, go ahead and all the way to completion. So come behind him. Yep, go ahead and come behind him. So you've got wrist, and then we've got that. And so now pull him like this. That's where the control is. Is when you pull him out and down, you get a lot of, like now you both have torque, so you have that circular power, but also all of his weight goes on that foot,
Right.
so it's harder for him to like move and resist you.
Okay.
Through the opening, turn with me. Here and here.
Yep, go outside, yep.
Every wrestler wants to go inside.
Yeah. I mean, I used to do that too. Once I like discovered like doing this like tilt grip, I use it for everything in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, this is way better. It's better at everything.
Just a better anchor.
That arm instead of body lock in jiu-jitsu now.
I do it a lot, yeah. I mean, in this context, it's the limb control for the weapons-based thing. But this is I use wrist and elbow in jiu-jitsu all the time. It's a very good control, yeah.
I used to go into body lock. I've been giving that up the whole time.
Well, and so like I use like the gut wrench. The gut wrench is for me to get the wrist.
Okay.
The gut wrench isn't the end. I gut wrench the guy because usually when you gut wrench him, now he puts that elbow down. Okay, now you collect the wrist, and then you go on. Like that's the purpose of it.
Got it.
All right, guys, let's bring it back up here. Is anybody having any problems with that? Makes sense to everybody. The duck under is extremely simplistic, easier said than done when it comes to hitting it on people. The biggest problem that you're going to see people have, and a few people are doing this, is it's imperative that your level, like your elevation changes, come from the hips and not from the neck. Probably the single biggest like problem that you'll have with people anytime you teach any sort of ducking related thing is they'll go like that, which is a really good way to just get snapped into a front headlock. And the thing is, one, with the proliferation of MMA and other like combat sports and stuff, you absolutely cannot go through life thinking that some random dude who attacks you on the street hasn't seen a guillotine, hasn't seen a rear naked. Like they've all seen that sort of stuff. So you can't like, you know, trained versus untrained. Like they all know something about that. They might not be really good at it. They might not be really technically refined, but at this point, everybody knows that if I grab somebody's head and I pull up really hard, that chokes them. They know something to that extent. So you got to be diligent with that. So when you get to the duck, it's the hips. And then if you think about looking through, and it's more of like a boxing bob than you think about like ducking. Like I don't need to clear Aaron's arm by a foot, right? I just need to make it under the arm, right? So it's minimal movements, right? It's easy to move this far fast. It's a lot easier to move that far than it is to move that far. So just kind of think in terms of like subtle movements. So I level change, and then as I look through, I just have to barely make it through. So you don't need to necessarily think in terms of like huge movements, subtle, small, get back there. And then again, prime directive, mitigate damage via limb control, get control of the hand. Now, this will usually also call into like people will be like, hey, you know, which wrist of his do I want to control? Well, preferably I want to have my right hand free to access weapons. Chances are, you know, 90% of people are right-handed, so chances are he has a weapon in his right hand. So if you're able to, you know, get your dominant side free, obviously we want to do that, but you can't always play the game of, you know, you get to choose and he gets no choices. Like that guy gets to fight as well. But does that make sense, you know, at least conceptually to everybody on that? Okay, so that's our basic attack from the overhook when we access the back. Now we have what is basically an opposing idea, which is when I'm unable to duck. And a lot of times what this comes from is when a guy pushes into you very hard, trying to disallow you to raise the underhook, right? So we got to here and here, so I was able to raise it, I created space, I was able to duck through that. But a lot of times the guy's like, nope, he disallows it and he pulls himself tight to me, right? So the next position that we're gonna go to is just what a lot of people call a split seat belt. So I'm basically going to control, so I was in bicep tie, or I was in wrist tie here, so I'm going to push, and I'm going to control on this far side here, right? So we always have either that bicep tie, the wrist tie, or the hand tie. This only works when him and I are very tight to one another, right? So there's a lot of space. Obviously, I can't reach that back there. So I have this, I was in this good tie position, either on the bicep, the wrist, doesn't matter. So I push back here, and I come to this split seat belt position, all right? Positionally, this is very simplistic. When you get to here, one thing is going to make this position actually work, and it's going to be that A, I stay up tight to the elbow. I don't get down on the wrist with this hand, and I straighten this arm, and I motorcycle this arm here. Does that make sense to people? So the position that I'm in, I straighten and I motorcycle. So go ahead and take your arm back here, just kind of reasonable resistance. I've got pretty reasonable control over the guy there. Now, what could I use this control to do?
Grab gun, strike, whatever you need to do.
Access a weapon, strike, right? Access a radio, all right? Like kind of very like simple stuff. I'll bring Jeff back out here again. I'm reaching the end of my usefulness again. So we get Mr. Satterwhite, come split seatbelt on Jeff here. So he gets to this position. So again, so he straightens and he motorcycles, right? So now Aaron has the potential to access things with his other hand. The other thing, you know, that he can possibly do is he can double up and he can go two hands and he control here, right? So one, there's takedowns, things like that. In a duty context, now he can go, hey, Dan, come over here, right? He can call for his backup, he can call for his help, you know, whatever happens to be. Maybe Aaron doesn't have a weapon, so he's kind of forced to play, you know, he's forced to play the game as it sits right now. Does that kind of make sense to guys on that? All right, so now, once we get there, the other thing, the last component that we're going to add is when we get to this split seat belt, where does my lower body go? I step in front and I press my hips into the front of his hips. All right, so I'm straight here, I motorcycle, I throttle, I step in front here. So now when I press my hips in here, one, do we see how off balance he is? He's not in a good spot. So now, if he doesn't want to fall on his face, where does Aaron go? He brings his arm over the top. Where are we at now? We're on the back, right? Pretty simple stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody really confused by that? Okay, so again, go ahead and just demo from the start to finish on Mr. Jeff there.
Come here, feeding. Straighten it out. Step in front. He doesn't like this. He's going to try to bring it hand to the front, boom. Now we're out, coming back to our elbow, getting in our control.
Very good. Does that make sense? So when you guys are doing this with your partners, so what I want you to do initially, I want you to get a few reps where you're hip in and you stay there. You work to access your weapons, all right? Work from there. Then I want you to get a few reps where the guy gives you a little bit of resistance. His natural resistance is nobody wants to fall on the ground, so they'll always bring that arm over the top in order to have something at the very least to put out in front of them. So as soon as he brings that arm over the top and you're behind him, you access the back, you switch. So you've got that wrist control. You're going to bring that wrist. We're going to pass off wrist and elbow, and now you're back into that wrist control, that wrist and elbow control again. Now, the way that we're going to amp it up just a little bit is now, when you get to that wrist and elbow control, I want you to try to access a weapon from that position as well. Person who is, having this done to you, very minor resistance, right? Very minor resistance. So again, if I'm going with Aaron, so imagine go on this side, please. So if Aaron, this is what a good rep should look like. So we're here and here, Aaron's fighting me. Look, go ahead and do it all. Yep. Right? It's very minimal resistance. Neither one of us are breathing hard, nothing like that. But I made him have to correctly move his grips, a little bit of stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody confused by that? Same thing, let's get in groups of 3, switch it up. So we should be constantly in new groups and new people. And let's rock and roll the split seatbelt.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta shut this off occasionally.